It's time for another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas, the podcast covering the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life in general here in the Ozarks. Whether you are considering a move to this area or trying to learn more about the place you call home, we've got something special for you. Here's our host, Randy Wilburn.
Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and I am excited today. I am here with none other than Tyler Clark, the Executive Director of the Single Parent Scholarship Fund of NWA. Tyler has been involved with a number of philanthropic organizations here in Northwest Arkansas. And as I was talking to friends, and most of you that have been listening to this podcast for a while know this, I'm constantly looking for interesting and engaging and exciting people to bring on this podcast. And so who better to find than Tyler, and a mutual friend introduced us, and I am so appreciative of that individual, and I thank him so much for making the introduction, not just to Tyler, but to several individuals, and maybe one day I'll have to bring him on the show, but nonetheless, I'm sitting here at a round table in Tyler's office, and he was so kind enough to meet with me. And so, Tyler, how are you doing today?
Hey, Randy, thank you so much. The privilege is all mine to be with you and to speak to your listeners and to share my thoughts on what's going on in philanthropy and the history of Single Parent Scholarship Fund and the mission that I love and the work that I do.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about it. Are you a native?
I am the rare species of Northwest Arkansan. Yes.
Are you really?
I am. I grew up in Springdale, actually.
Or you're a bulldog?
I am a bulldog. Red dog. Let's be very specific.
Yeah.
Be very specific.
You know the story about that, right?
Maybe I don't.
About how the bulldog the mascot came to be and why Fayetteville and Springdale both have the same mascot?
I do not. I should know.
So they played to a tie. They agreed. Okay. They agreed that whoever won the game would get to keep the mascot.
Okay.
And they tied.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fate had it.
A football game. It's a true story. It happened years ago, and I actually had a chance to speak at Springdale High School to their engineering group. They have an amazing program for young kids that are going through STEM and engineering, and I got a chance to speak to them. And somebody shared that story with me afterwards, and I was like, "Wow, that's really interesting."
That is rich history, of course.
It is,
and the rivalry began.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why we have two bulldogs right next to each other, which kind of creates some confusion.
It does.
But you're the first person I've ever heard say red bulldog.
Oh yeah, red dog for sure.
Dog,
it's absolutely a sense of pride of being from Springdale and watching this region grow. I in my mid to late 30s and have been privileged to watch Northwest Arkansas really expand culturally. Its region focus. When I was a kid, 540 didn't exist or 49 didn't exist, and there was truly a difference between driving to Bentonville and it was a trip. It wasn't, you had to go truly the back roads, if you will, to reach the area, and Walmart wasn't the phenomenon it is today. So to see everything kind of come to the fruition it has now is pretty exciting. To do the work that I do now is very exciting too. But to see some of the hometown thing grow in Springdale, specifically like the Jones Center and Tyson Foods, of course, and the revitalization of downtown Springdale is very exciting. So proud to be a Northwest Arkansan and proud to always advocate for those values of what makes Arkansas special, but also makes the community welcoming and so philanthropic. We were talking about that off air a few moments ago of what a special way we had to look at giving in Northwest Arkansas. And that really began, I think, with, in me at least, with my parents, who instilled that philanthropy looks different for everybody in different ways, but it started in church for me. I grew up in Church of Christ, Robinson Avenue Church of Christ, and the way that we viewed philanthropy at that time was to give back to your church, whether it be through tithings, through service, through different ways of giving back, and then volunteer service, of course. And before I was able to drive, I was actually volunteering at the Jones Center for families when they first opened. So my mom would drive me in the summer so I could volunteer in the television studio or computer lab, just to because at that time the Jones Center wasn't fully staffed. So that's really what got me started on this path, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Actually, it's been a blessing.
That's awesome. So yeah, it's so funny. I always have this conversation in my head about in life, I mean, do you want to be a giver or do you want to be a taker?
Right.
And I think the givers always win out in the long run.
Sure.
And, you can only take but so much.
Right.
But your giving can extend beyond your lifetime.
Absolutely.
And, you brought up the Jones Center, the Jones Trucking Line family, and I've heard stories about them, upon story upon story, and their level of giving and generosity is historic in this area. And so, as you were saying to me off air, they almost planted the seed for what giving looks like and what philanthropy looks like in Northwest Arkansas. I'd love for you to talk about that.
I mean, if you, as a Springdale kid, I remember that Harvey was already passed in the early 80s, but Bernice Jones, Mrs. Jones, ensured that every classroom in Springdale School District had a computer. And that was revolutionary in the mid 90s, obviously, an expensive endeavor. Yeah. She would help remodel schools. She would help make sure schools had air conditioning, which seems like a fallacy now, right? Yeah. But, there were some schools that just didn't have that capacity. So, and what really started with their philanthropic activity was when Harvey, who wanted to be a doctor when he was a kid, wanted to help create a medical system in Northwest Arkansas, Springdale specifically. So he served as the first chairman and helped raise money for the first Springdale Memorial Hospital. Okay. And so that's where their philanthropic activity began. And then after his retirement and sale of the Jones trucking line, that money went into a trust, obviously, and then begat the philanthropic activity that started really somewhat after Harvey's death. So Mrs. Jones bought back the Jones truck line property and redeveloped that with the help of trustees and other community members to make, the original plan was to make the Jones Center a YMCA, believe it or not. And but she had a problem in the very early beginnings of some kid looking from the outside in. They had traveled to a YMCA in Kansas, I believe. And I don't know if you've heard the story or not, Randy, but a child was literally looking inside the YMCA from the outside, and she asked why he was. And they said, well, the fees were... he wouldn't be able to come into the program. And she said, well, then I want to make my program for free. Right. So obviously not as sustainable as we would hope over the years that have come, the 20 years since the Jones Center has opened. But that was revolutionary for the area. I would love to give tours to people that would come into the Jones Center. And after I volunteered, I eventually worked there for several years in a couple different capacities. But to tell the story of the origins of the Jones family, they didn't have children, had nieces and nephews only, so they felt that the community was their children. Mm-hmm. And they gave this huge gift, not only of the Jones Center, the recreation center, the pool, the ice rink, and all those type of things. They redeveloped part of the program and facility of the Jones truck line to serve nonprofits and give nonprofits rent-free office space. And what that meant for the community in Northwest Arkansas was a complete gift, because reduced rent, which allowed them to focus on services to their clientele.
Yeah.
So what you see is this bar being raised by this 90-year-old woman, and then who was very kind and reserved, but would approach others, like the Tyson family, John Tyson specifically, about how they can contribute back to the community as well. And I think she applied the right pressure in her way at her kitchen table, oftentimes over coffee, tea, and some cookies, about how to better the place that they called home, because she was a Springdale girl, grew up in West Springdale at the Young Farm, and saw the need and was a visionary, and doesn't get as much credit as she obviously deserves, I think. And alongside her, the Walkers, the Walker family,
so you're talking about
Pat and Willard Walker,
okay.
Who were friends with the Joneses, and of course we know Willard's connection with the Walton family and being one of Sam's managers,
right? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
And so you see the Tyson family, the Jones family, the Walton family, and the Walker family really come to the surface of setting the bar for philanthropy in Northwest Arkansas. And, well, I would even go beyond Northwest Arkansas. I would say in Arkansas, the region, and the nation. And, you got to realize this is the time when the Gates Foundation wasn't around.
Right.
And Warren Buffett was a wealthy man, but money wasn't coming out of, it wasn't really a time of giving money away. It was more about what can companies and families do for themselves.
Yeah.
I read just recently when Mr. Ross Perot passed away about how philanthropic he was. And I think that some of those things are really undervalued in the greatest generation, is that they believed that they kept a lot of the money that they earned because of the scarcity of resources because of the Depression, but have been so generous in their time since their passing and so forth and so on, that they have set the bar so high for future generations. So just like the Jones family did, the Walker family did, and now the Walton family is doing, is really changing the way we look at philanthropy across many sectors, whether you be a nonprofit professional or even just a lay person who is giving part of their money away.
Right.
And, we have so many opportunities now to give money through GoFundMe pages and, crisis situations with earthquakes and floods and such. We're kind of inundated all the time.
Yeah.
But what they have done is laid that groundwork of really ensuring some stability for nonprofits in the Northwest Arkansas region who can really do some specific good and have some measurable outcomes that make the region one of the best. And, I always take some offense, I'll be honest, when people from around the state may say that Northwest Arkansas is paved with gold and milk and honey. And, I always reiterate, we still have a high need for lots of services for our recipients, but for people who truly need us. We know that 1 in 5 kids go to bed hungry every night in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah.
Poverty exists as much here as it does around the state. So where we do have the privilege in a lot of cases to make a difference, we do have the goal for us is to really address those things head on.
Yeah, and I think that is the dichotomy that does exist here with regard to you have, as I told somebody being here, and I've told several friends from other places, and I've lived in some very well-to-do places, and there are a lot of extremely affluent people here in Northwest Arkansas. They don't wear it on their sleeve.
Right.
They're very, they're very circumspect as far as that's concerned. But It seems like for a lot of people that their heart is open to give and to share as much as that they've been blessed with and that they have.
Right.
And I think that speaks volumes. And I'm not saying that Northwest Arkansas has cornered the market on this. I mean, there are other parts of the country. It's just that when you look at this 4-city area between the sandwich, with the top of the bun being Bentonville and the bottom of the bun being Fayetteville and everything in between, including Springdale and Rogers, you've got such a it's just interesting what you have here. And
it's a microcosm, if you will. And when I go to a national conference with nonprofit professionals around the nation, people always ask where you're from, of course, and there's always this, from Arkansas. That's always the loaded question or a loaded response. And, it's all, my response obviously is, well, it's the Northwest Arkansas corridor, home of the Walmart, J.B. Hunt, Tyson, and that really kind of heightens their interest. And then I talk about the philanthropic impact. Randy, you mentioned, a lot of philanthropists walk around and you don't realize how wealthy they may be. Harvey Jones wore overalls every day of his life. Yeah. And
I've heard the stories of Don Tyson as well.
Absolutely. So, the khakis. It's a lost art of sometimes, in some cases, that there's nothing wrong with showing your wealth at all. I think that's part of someone's opportunity or privilege to do so. But there was a certain flair for, I think, catching people off guard. If a salesman came by Jones Truck Line to talk to the owner, the CEO, and Harvey would meet him with grease-covered overalls and I'm the dude that makes the decisions. Right. That's pretty impactful, right?
It is.
And shifts your mindset. So and what I've seen at Tyson and Walmart too, like Doug McMillan and now the CEO at Tyson, is that these men and women throughout the organizations have worked their way up. Right. And Doug was a cart pusher, for gosh sakes. And so what you see is that opportunity for reward in those companies. Unfortunately, Jones Truck Line closed and sold, and then Sun Oil went bankrupt after that. But it'd be interesting to see kind of what Jones Truck Line would be like today. Obviously, wouldn't probably be as much room for JB Hunt in the market. So one big at the other. So which has become such a important transportation hub for Arkansas and the rest of the nation. So one had to, I think, end for the other one to begin.
Yeah, and certainly I think they laid the foundation.
Oh, absolutely.
That the foundation that Jones Trucking Line built is the foundation that JB Hunt sits on now.
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Harvey was one of the first investors into JB Hunt, so which is not surprising.
No, it's not. And it's so funny because I talked to I know Philip Taldo,
right,
who's a Springdale native, and I didn't realize the governor went to Springdale High School.
Did.
So, but that's the other thing that's always amazing me, that there's just so much connection.
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody knows somebody that knows somebody.
Right.
It's like, oh, I know this person. Oh, you want to meet this person, or you want to talk to that person?
Right.
Here in Northwest Arkansas, and again, as I was sharing with you before we started recording, is part of the reason for me creating this podcast was to paint a picture for what anyone could expect coming here for the first time,
right,
or what people could learn about that already are here.
Correct.
Because what I've started to be told by many listeners is that, wow, you shared something with me that I didn't even know, and I'm from here.
Right.
And that to me is that's the biggest a pat on the back that I would ever take, because that means that I'm doing my job and that I'm unearthing some of the information that I think is valuable to people that they should be aware of. And I've always used this comment: it's a pitiful frog that doesn't praise its own pond.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you don't talk about your own backyard, then all hope is lost.
I think there's a lot of. I'm going to get a little political on you, and I won't lean left
That's
or right.
Okay. That's
but
right.
I think it started with locally, Mayor McKinney. Now the former mayor of Springdale, that city pride. You had former mayors of Fayetteville that had that city pride, that completely own. Even what Steve Omak was mayor of Rogers, and now Greg Hines, and you've got a wonderful mayor in Springdale, and of course Lionel Jordan here in Fayetteville. You've got these city councils and these leaders in the cities that are so prideful and don't infight.
Yeah.
And I think that is so important, that you're not jockeying for, even the chambers of commerce are not jockeying for they're competitive. Let's not lie, but they are respectful about what strengths are in each city. And I think that is something that is refreshing. And I think you don't find that probably in a lot of places in around the nation.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And you're right. When I lived up in the Northeast, specifically up in the Boston area, people were very territorial. Mm-hmm. You find that a little bit in New York City with the boroughs as well.
Absolutely.
And so, but you don't see that here.
Right.
It's like, Bentonville, those are my brothers up there. Right. Springdale, those are my sisters. Rogers, it's the same thing over and over again. And so these are, it is certainly refreshing. And if anything, I think people could take a lesson from what folks are trying to accomplish up here in Northwest Arkansas.
And I think that the benefit of that is, Randy, is that because each city, each area has its own focus. It has its own heart. And that is the beauty of Northwest Arkansas and the region. If you think about kind of the 5-county region too, you got to think of kind of what the uniqueness of from over even to Madison, Carroll County, Boone County, et cetera, even down to Crawford and Sebastian. There is such a uniqueness to all of this region, and it is a destination for people to visit, live, play, and grow, if you will. And people often ask, I live downtown Fayetteville now, and people often ask, don't you just hate Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue and all, Fayetteville home games? And I'm like, this is the beauty of Northwest Arkansas, is that people come, enjoy, and they leave.
Exactly.
Or they stay, which is also great too. Yeah. You know, what I want to emphasize to people if they come, to get engaged. You know, if you move here to work for a large company or even a small company, don't hide in the shadows. You've got to get engaged, and for us to continue to grow, and especially in a diversity type of way, we've got to, and it goes both ways. Obviously, those who have been here for a while or forever, and those who are new have got to come together to really build Northwest Arkansas up continuously for us to be successful.
Yeah, no, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And that was the mistake I made. And so I'm telling anyone listening to this, if you move to Northwest Arkansas and put your head in the sand, you're making a mistake.
Yeah.
I mean, Tyler is putting it out there plainly. And I'm going to tell you, the cautionary tale is simply that, man, I felt like I lost a couple of years that I could have really benefited. Partially because, you know, I was just on the road.
Right.
And a lot of times when people get hired at Walmart or Tyson or J.B. Hunt, some of their job description requires them to get on a plane and go elsewhere.
Right.
But now that I'm really kind of focused or hyper-focused, if you will, on Northwest Arkansas, it's as if, you know, I'm brand new and people are welcoming me with open arms.
Right.
And that's the really cool part about it. But again, my one piece of advice to anyone thinking about coming here, and if you're already here and you're not doing anything, okay, it's time to get off the chair and get active, because there's so many opportunities. Whether you were helping out Tyler and what he's doing here at the Single Parent Scholarship Fund, or helping out other nonprofit organizations, helping out your local church, joining the Rotary, figuring out ways to just kind of give back. Because in doing that, when you make it about others, eventually you are able to meet some of the needs that you may have on your plate as well. And I think I really believe that.
Yeah,
and so
I agree wholeheartedly.
That's why I'm doing this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what it's all about.
It's a dot connector, right? And you know, if we continue to stay in the same circle of friends in the same region, if we don't get out of our norms, then things aren't going to change, obviously. Yeah. And there was a great recently the Northwest Council talked about quality of life. Obviously, that's part of their job description. And it was kind of about singles moving to Northwest Arkansas and how do you really kind of connect with people and besides the work bubble that you're in. And it's really trying to engage in different things. Yeah. And, you know, if you live in Bentonville, go south. If you live in Fayetteville, go north. Right. You know, so try to find those great things. And we have the opportunity to, especially in the nonprofit sector, to connect people with boards and different things, right. To put their skills to good use, but also, you know, maybe connect them in a different way that they haven't been connected before.
Yeah. You know, and a perfect example, just the other night, I got to participate in a program that Rogers Lowell Chamber of Commerce is doing called Vision 100. Because they're concerned, and not really a concern, but it's just being proactive about what do we do when Rogers Lowell area becomes 100,000 people,
right?
Which it will be in the next 10 years.
Wow.
And I know, right? And so I was invited up there by the CEO of the Arkansas Arts Academy, which is Mary Lee, and
right.
Really great woman. And she sponsored the program, and it happened at the Rogers Arts Academy location,
right.
there, that beautiful
great facility
right there on Poplar Avenue there in Rogers, right near the downtown area. And, you know, I went up there. I mean, I live in Fayetteville, but I went up there just because I wanted to learn more about what other people are thinking about this area and what's happening. Mm-hmm. And I was amazed to see that there were several people from Fayetteville in the room.
Sure.
Right? Like, I mean, again, they don't necessarily technically have a dog in the fight, although they do.
They do.
Right?
We all do. And the thing is, like, it's not the city borders, the county borders do not hem us in, right?
No.
Robert Frost said, you know, good fences make good neighbors, et cetera. You know, take that any way you want to at this point. But there's different versions of what he meant by that. But you've got to truly, I think, move out of that comfort area. And where you mentioned earlier that your kids went to Haas Hall.
Right. And,
you know, what a unique melting pot of opportunity there to connect with different folks because of just the different locations they have, obviously, mm-hmm. and what we see, that wasn't an opportunity, you know, we had 10, 15, 20 years ago in Northwest Arkansas. So the I guess my point is that for anyone that's looking to expand that opportunity to learn more about somebody different is just to step out of that comfort zone. I know it's easier said than done, but I think that podcasts like this and other opportunities give us the permission to do so. And I think our listeners should take advantage.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So to switch gears here a little bit, because I'd love to just learn a little bit more about your mission here at the Single Parent Scholarship Fund. Tell us a little bit more about that. I mean, obviously the name says everything, right? But why don't you give us just kind of the Cliff Note version of what, as we said earlier, SPSF, what the SPSF of Northwest Arkansas, what are you guys doing here?
It's unique to have a nonprofit that actually speaks what the mission is in its name. So we're lucky to have that. But we did start 35 years ago, in 1984, with the mission to frankly help single moms who were struggling to pay rent, to pay utilities. And there was essentially a survey or an understanding that it seemed like most single moms that were struggling at the time had challenges because they didn't have a post-secondary education. And a group of very strong-willed volunteers got together to raise a small amount of money to help about 8 single moms go to school, $300 a piece. And then there was a group for Washington County and a group for Benton County that did the same. They did $250. Washington County did $300, and there begat Single Parent Scholarship Fund in Northwest Arkansas. And we ran for 15 years without staff. It was completely volunteer run. Had their own 501c3, but you had a board president and a board vice president, and it was a completely unique opportunity for the board members to raise money and then select the scholarship recipients. Okay. And at that time, the focus was purely on post-secondary 4-year degree education opportunities. And then after that 15 years, we hired our first staff member. We were able to get more substantial funding from the Walton Family Foundation to give us an opportunity to really focus in on fundraising to raise the amount of the tuition, the amount of the scholarship, because tuition was continuing to increase, and then to find more resources, grants, foundations, et cetera, to actually help us bring in more money to be more sustainable, obviously. Mm-hmm. And 35 years later, we've given $6.5 million away to 9,500 recipients. The mission has expanded to, of course, include men and women because single dads are out there as well. Yep. And the focus is again to move those single parents and their families out of poverty into prosperity. And how we do so is by providing financial resources, a scholarship at their school of choice. That is a approved institution. We have 24 approved institutions in the area, so that includes everything from a welding program to cosmetology to a master's degree. So we really kind of run the gamut of what we can do here at the Single Parent Scholarship Fund to really assist single parents, whatever their journey is and where they are on the spectrum of help. What makes our program unique is that our program director assists our recipients in addressing the financial need by taking advantage of Pell Grants, other scholarships that are available, and they use our funds, the money that we give them each semester, to pay for the expenses that are going to occur when they're in class. Okay. So to help them pay for gas, to help them pay for a car payment, to help them pay for rent, utilities, those type of things that may get in the way or the success of actually completing school. Because if you could only imagine, having maybe 1 or 2 kids, trying to work part-time or full-time, and then make ends meet while having a full class load, it's just almost impossible. So for full-time, we give $2,000 per semester. So that's $6,000 a year. Part-time is $1,000. And then we also have for non-traditional students, so for our professional certification and allied health, and those are really programs that are short short-lived, but career readiness. So think of allied health as like a CNA, a certified nursing assistant, or a X-ray tech, pharmacy tech, those type of those, not entry level because they're quite skilled, but frontline folks in a
dental
lot of
hygienists.
Yes, those as well. Vet tech, welding, truck driving. Refrigeration, repair, those type of things, those journeyman type things. We help pay for those as well through our program. Sometimes it's a one-time scholarship of $2,000. If it's just a professional certification, let's say like a business certification, it's $500.
Okay.
So very flexible in those opportunities to apply. For the scholarships, we base the traditional scholarships on traditional semester application period. So right now, today, we are in application interview time. So applications were due on June the 15th, and so we're in the process of interviewing all of our recipients. And everyone reapplies every semester, even if they've received an award previously. New people apply and interview with a panel of volunteers just to really kind of check and see if what their process is, what they're ready to do within their careers when their college degree is finished, what their plan is, if they're having any extra challenges, and then what resources they might need, what we can connect them with. Mm-hmm. So if they need maybe some behavioral health counseling, maybe they need some more child care vouchers. The most expensive, costly venture we run into with our recipients truly is the cost of child care. Is outrageous. Secondary is probably housing cost in Northwest Arkansas is still mostly affordable, but in the major cities of Springdale and Fayetteville, you see still high rent. And so many of our recipients have to live out in different rural communities. So their transportation cost is high. If you have an older car, obviously it's a cost to maintain that. So we're helping people buy tires often, replace brakes, those type of things. And what we're doing per year is about 120 recipients, 120 folks on average. We have about 27 to 30 graduates per year graduate the program. Our retention rate is quite high. 85% of our recipients finish the program and then have an average GPA of a 3.3. We require them to hold a 2.5 to maintain funding from us, but many go beyond that or even higher. And I always get the question of, how many men do you have on service? It's always a question. Right now we have 2 out of the 120, but that continues to fluctuate as the need grows. Average right now per household, we have 1 child per household. Mm-hmm. As you see kind of nationwide, households are shrinking a little bit. We have the youngest recipient is 19. Our oldest recipient is 64. Oh, wow. So it truly runs the gamut. The 64-year-old is a grandmother that has custody of her grandchild. So just trying to help make ends meet as she got custody of the grandchild. Wow. So you really kind of see that the whole process there, if you will. What we've seen in the last 35 years is a second generation change. So follow me with this, if you will. If you see a single mom or dad working very hard and you're maybe not motivated as a child to go to college, but you see your mom and dad working hard to really make a better life for you, you're likely more motivated to seek that post-secondary education yourself. So in our 35-year history, what we're seeing is the encouragement of our graduates to encourage their kids and then grandkids to seek that post-secondary education. And what that means is the cycle of poverty is broken. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what this process started as, is to really address that cycle. No matter someone's circumstance in our program, we review their application, ensure that they are set up for success. We know that a plan is got to be in place. So desire is one thing, is great, right? You got to have the motivation, but then you also got to have the plan of who's going to take care of your kid when you're in class. How are you what's the transportation structure look like? And we're here for that process, right?
Right.
we want to be here for that process, but also, are you choosing the right degree? Is it something that's going to pay you livable wages? So right now, average recipient is making $15,000 a year when they come on service, and that includes child care vouchers, SNAP benefits, and housing assistance from the government. And when they leave our program, the first 2 years they're making $35,000.
Wow.
So they're buying homes, they're buying a car. So they're really lifting themselves, and they are doing it themselves, lifting themselves out of poverty by working hard and doing this important work. And what is interesting for us, Randy, is that we get to partner with so many other organizations. I had the philosophy, I've been in place for 2 years, but my predecessors have too, is that there are other organizations that are doing good work as well that we can connect people with, like EOA, Head Start, CCOA, Credit Council of Arkansas, Magdalene House, all those great organizations that are doing and there's so many more. Trust me, 2,500 other nonprofits in the area that are doing great work. Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers Big Sisters, that our recipients have the opportunity to take advantage of because we have those resources to connect them to them. And that is what has been an important mission focus for us. We haven't strayed from that mission from day one, and will continue to focus in on getting access to people to post-secondary education. And that changes all the time. What we're looking now is at coding academies. Now they're so popular, where coding jobs and the region's biggest companies pay very well. They're oftentimes just need a certification, and they're on-the-job training. They're looking for talented people who have drive, who may not necessarily be tech savvy, but are willing to learn. And those jobs are paying $60,000, $75,000 a year. And so what we're looking at now is kind of meeting some of the demand that other employers have. The labor market is very tight in Northwest Arkansas. If you want to be employed, you're employed.
Yeah.
But some people are very much so underemployed. So how do we move them from that underemployment to full employment or to their full capacity? So that's been the exciting part over the last 2 years for me, but also for the organization for the last 35 years.
Yeah, it seems like as you describe everything that Single Parent Scholarship Fund does, you guys are almost the grease that keeps the machine going.
Sure,
and you're able to provide insight, you're able to give instruction, you're able to educate and help the folks that are coming through your program to really, it's not necessarily Horatio Alger where you raise yourself up by your bootstraps, because I don't think anybody ever does that.
Right.
You guys are lending a helping hand to help people rise up to their true potential.
Absolutely.
Which to me is exciting.
And people have that potential. They just need to oftentimes what we see is sometimes they've been burdened by just the financial issues, or they've been told they're not worthy of other people's time, effort, other people's ability to believe in them. So part of that is that rebuilding of someone's confidence. And that's why those interviews are so important that we have with the recipients, is that, you walk into a room of strangers, 4 people, and you're kind of intimidated, but then you're getting back warmth. You're getting back advice that is truly in your best interest. And what you see is people coming out of those interviews truly levitated because they have heard that they're worthy. They heard that they can accomplish this goal, and they are supported. And what I also appreciate about our staff at Single Parent Scholarship Fund is that when the phone rings, they're ready to help somebody. Yeah. That is, they come ready to work every day to move that needle. And when someone needs the extra helping hand, we oftentimes have recipients that need more time to complete their degree, or need more, need a listening ear because they don't have anyone else, or are stressed out because finals really stink, or they're not getting the help they had from their ex, or whatever the case may be. That support is there. I like the term being the grease in the wheel, because there are so many opportunities here to help people in Northwest Arkansas. And we know that this probably wouldn't work as well in other places because some of the resources aren't there. You'd have to probably have a lot more financial support based here. But what we're able to do with with our organization is we finished a campaign 2 years ago to build an endowment. Okay. $3.5 million endowment that will actually fund yearly one third of our scholarships. So what that allows us to do is then with corporate support, foundations, grants, and individuals is raise the other 2/3 to give out the whole amount of money, which is about an average of $450,000 a year in scholarship dollars.
Okay, and how often are you guys under a capital campaign right now?
We're not. We're one of the few nonprofits in the area that are not. So
But if people want to give back,
absolutely right, absolutely. We have a lot of our most generous supporters are monthly supporters that give each month or each year. We do a couple of events a year to fundraise.
We're not coming up in October.
We do, yeah. Gofftoberfest is actually a really fun event we can talk about in just a second. But what we see is people giving back through United Way or giving back on a monthly basis or a yearly basis. We do a couple of campaigns. We have online giving as well. But what you see is the buy-in from people that understand the return on investment of, oh my gosh, these people are really working hard and they're coming off government assistance and they want to help themselves and they're going into the workforce. So what the conversation I have with a lot of donors and our development team has a lot of donors is that it's really a ROI. Mm-hmm. You're investing now into a great scenario in the future. So Gofftoberfest is coming up in October as an opportunity. It actually started off as a family event. And that event was a chance for our recipients to connect with their kiddos. And we do that still. We do movie nights and nights at the pool and Walton Arts Center tickets, et cetera. Because our recipients oftentimes just don't have the spare money to go do those type of fun things.
Right.
And a partnership with Gator Golf in Fayetteville, allowed us to bring our recipients in, and our board members started to attend, and we started to kind of get some sponsors to help pay for food. And then we realized that we can make it a special event for our recipients, but also make it a special event for the public. And the event on average raises about $35,000 for us each year. So it's coming up in October, and you can go on our website, Single Parent Scholarship Fund NWA, to find out the details. Register a team of 2 or 4. We have morning and afternoon flights. It is set up just like a regular golf tournament, and I say that with a big smile on my face. You can't see me. We have hole-in-one contest where we actually give away cars, little miniature cars for those hole-in-ones. And then we have top scoring teams, first, second, and third place. People are competitive, Randy. They go and practice the week before.
Right.
Some people have requested which hole they start on. They bring real golf putters.
Yeah.
It is pretty intense.
That's funny. Funny.
We should probably handicap some of those bankers that come out and play because some of those kids don't have a chance. But no, we do cook hot dogs and hamburgers and just really have a chance to share the mission, but also have a good time raising money. And I think that's important to do, is that it doesn't have to be a gala. It doesn't have to be all those things. You can be on some untraditional things to reach out to the community. And that's what I love about our board of directors at Single Parent Scholarship Fund, is that they're willing to kind of go there with us and find those unique ways to get the community involved and engaged. Because if you much like a new person in the area, if you put your head in the sand and just hope money comes to you, it's not. People have got to connect to a mission to understand it, and we do our best to get out in the community to let people know what we do. I've been doing nonprofit work since college for 20 years almost. And, there's still people that don't understand what we do. They think we may give scholarships to single parent families and their kids or something like that. But there's no amount of money that can truly give us ubiquitous marketing ability, right? There's no way that'll happen ever. But everyone that listens or everyone that listens today can certainly share our story. And I know they know someone that can benefit from our program. program. And that the other benefit here is that not only are there resources here in the 3-county region of Washington, Carroll, Madison County, and Benton County as well. We have a sister affiliate in Benton County, but every other county in the state of Arkansas has a smaller affiliate to actually help with resources there too. So we can refer and help them with that application process. So if people are listening across the state, they can certainly benefit from the resources of Single Parent Scholarship Fund of Arkansas as well.
Okay. All right. Wow. Well, there you have it, folks. I mean, you've laid it out, Tyler. I mean, there's a lot going on, and you guys are really, I mean, you've taken on a yeoman's task and have really, you've really done well with it over the past 35 years. And I'm sure it's interesting just to kind of see the arc of your experience with all this. I mean, you got involved at a very young age.
Right.
And what advice would you give to parents trying to encourage their kids to get involved like this,
Sure.
right, at a young age, and understand that, it's so much better to give than to receive.
Right.
And it's a hard message to have, especially with young people, and when you're competing against Fortnite and Xbox and so many other,
Right.
YouTube and everything else. I mean, what would your one single piece of advice be to parents, especially in terms of encouraging their kids to embrace that I mean, I do it at home with my family,
right,
and with my kids, and I've explained to them what tithing is all about, because we tithe and we give back, and we kind of tell historical perspective stories about other members of our family that have just selflessly given of themselves in a million different ways,
right,
and how it's come back to benefit them, right?
Sure.
Because we don't want to make it necessarily a quid pro quo. You do
Correct.
this and you get that,
right?
But we still want to educate them,
sure,
on the importance of it.
I think you've hit the nail on the head already. I think you've answered your own question. Kids witness exactly what their parents are doing. So if you're not walking the walk and talking the talk, it's hard to teach. It's hard to tell them. You're teaching them by doing. And if you're looking for that opportunity to kind of connect kids to what, and a very cellular level of what a philanthropic activity looks like. It doesn't have to be cash. It can be simply going to a food bank and working for an afternoon. It can be talking about when a natural disaster hits and how you as a family maybe raise some money to give. Talking about tithing is important. Talking about why I think being honest with kids too. If you see someone that's homeless on the street, you see the panhandlers on the street of Northwest Arkansas, having a conversation of I think you see people on the street like this. Maybe we should go to Seven Hills Homeless Shelter and see what we can do. Maybe we have some socks and some warm clothing and things that might be a benefit to folks that need our help. And I think going alongside them and showing them that it is not a scary thing to do. It is something that is so fulfilling, and that's kind of selfish because it is fulfilling to go and see some of that immediate return. Simply giving school supplies during fill the bus, those type of things are just those moments and time that as a family you can spend together, which I think is so important because you're competing with Fortnite and you're competing with the phone and Snapchat and all those things that are out there. Is that it's a chance to put those things down for both you and the family, because we're all on our phone and our watches and all the time, all those type of things. How do you take a breath and say, we are going to focus on someone else for a minute, and this is what this means. So, lead by example, I think, is how to surmise that.
Okay, there you go. Well, folks, there you have it. The awesome Tyler Clark. He's the executive director of Single Parent Scholarship Fund. We originally were scheduled to meet at a certain time, and I missed that appointment, and I felt so bad, but he was kind enough to still see me within a certain time frame. So I really appreciate him. I appreciate you taking time to kind of just share your heart and your background and your origin story. And I think people are going to want to hear this. So I look forward to getting feedback from those that have been impacted by this particular episode and what it may cause them to do. If nothing else, just bring some more awareness about the Single Parent Scholarship Fund. I had no idea. I didn't know anything about it. I mean, obviously I know that there are programs and funds here, but I mean, this is one great organization that's doing something cool right in our own backyard. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I really do appreciate it. And for your listeners who are looking to get involved, there's so many ways to volunteer with our organization. We have a couple of positions through our Community Leadership Council. If you're looking to volunteer, to connect your kids to some cool things through our Oktoberfest, looking for peer mentors as well. So love to get people involved. Our website is a great resource. Call our office, and we'd love to connect you.
And the website is SPSFNWA.org.
Yeah, or just it's also easier to Google Single Parent Scholarship Fund.
There you go. Yeah, I know. I'm using these acronyms and I'm throwing them out there, but we'll put all of that in the show notes.
Great.
We'll get your email address in the show notes, the number for this organization, so you can reach out to them. They're smack dab right around the corner, right off of North College, and kind of nestled between North College and Gregg in the middle of Fayetteville. And so definitely I would encourage you to reach out to Tyler if there's any way that you can help him or the organization. Even not necessarily, you don't have to give any money. Maybe you could just help with giving some of your time. It's not always about money. And so certainly want to encourage you to do that. But the money helps. So if you do have some, we'll
take it. And ambassadors are important too, Randy.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Sharing social media is so impactful because you never know who you're going to impact.
Yeah, well, we certainly are following you guys online, and we're going to continue to share out what you're doing. And we'll make this episode will come out well in advance of the Golftoberfest, and we will certainly push out as much of that as we can and let people create some more awareness.
That's great.
Yeah, so thank you so much.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Good. Well, folks, there you have it. Tyler Clark, Single Parent Scholarship Fund of Northwest Arkansas. Another great episode with another amazing individual here in Northwest Arkansas. I got to say, I'm just blown away every time I sit down with somebody new. I'm never expecting that I won't be excited about the conversation, but as I sit back here and as I'm listening to and going into my head all the things that Tyler just shared today, I can't wait to get this out and share it with everybody because this is good information. And so I hope that you're taking time out to listen to this podcast. I understand that not every episode is going to be up your alley, but my goal is to make more often than not that there'll be episodes that really relate to you in some way, shape, or form. And that's why we're focused on the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life here in the Ozarks. And I'm really appreciative of the time that Tyler spent with us today, and I hope our listening audience enjoyed it as well. Please check us out. You can find us anywhere that great podcasts can be found. You can also write a review about the I Am Northwest Arkansas podcast and share it on Apple Podcasts or anywhere that you can listen to a podcast. You have the ability to review that podcast and give us your feedback. We love to get 5-star reviews. We love to get feedback. We want to consistently improve this podcast so that it is valuable to the end user, and that's you. So whether you're out on the run, on the Razorback Trail, riding your bike, whatever you're doing, and you're listening to this podcast, we appreciate you, and we want to continue to bring you great content like this episode today with Tyler. So that's all we have for this week. We will see you next week. That's it for right now. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and thanks again for listening to I Am Northwest Arkansas. We'll see you soon. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. Check us out each and every week, available anywhere that great podcasts can be found. For show notes or more information on becoming a guest, visit IamNorthwestArkansas.com. We'll see you next week on I Am Northwest Arkansas.